Davis is back. We talk Purdue, and is the AP poll actually more accurate than the CFP? All that and more next on Dot in the Eye with Davis and Chad. What's up, Buckeye Nation, and welcome back to Dot in the Eye with Davis and Chad. This is episode 34, and we are coming to you right after a gigantic win over Purdue Saturday night in the shoe. We have Davis back on the podcast today, and sitting in, of course, is Chaz Williamson. Welcome, everybody, to the podcast, and let's go like this. We'll go just like this. Davis, since you weren't on last time, give me your general synopsis of the game. Tell me what your highs and lows were, and tell me how excited you are, because I know I'm getting ready to hear it.
Yeah, so I know obviously I missed the last episode because scheduling conflict, but basically, you know, I didn't get a chance to really talk preview for Purdue, but I kind of had a feeling about this game. And after listening to you guys were very similar to the fact that, hey, you know, we got to be careful about this one. I feel like it's going to be kind of close, but maybe Ohio State pulls away a little bit. And the day before the game, I remember I called you up and I said, listen, dude, I just got a feeling like I feel like we're going to be firing all cylinders. I see us covering the spread. I see us doing really well. And you're like, gosh, I really wish you were on the episode so we could have argued about it. Long story short, though, we came out and did probably better than I even expected us to do. We looked like that team kind of in the middle of that big run we were having after that Tulsa game where we were just firing on all cylinders. You know, our touchdown percentage per drive was like almost 100%. We kind of picked right back up on that same note there. I was extremely pleased with the running game getting back going. Travion Henderson getting his again and looking like one of the best running backs in the nation again. Also really excited to see some other people in the passing game, not just predominantly one person getting it, but, you know, kind of the whole wide receiving core really taking part in the whole game. And Garrett Wilson had a day, didn't he? I mean, boy had 4 touchdowns, 3 receiving, 1 rushing, just looked insanely good. I mean, we made Purdue look stupid. So my overall feeling was I thought we played great. I thought it was almost a little bit of a statement game. Because, I mean, people were calling for possible upset, and we put that to bed pretty quick. I think it was definitely a stepping stone for C.J. Stroud for his Heisman campaign possibility. And I know we'll dive into the defensive numbers here, but I'm not willing to knock the defense as much as some people want to, and I'll explain why later. But my overall, feeling about this entire game was we really brought, we took them to the woodshed. So very happy to see that.
All right, Chaz, give it to me.
I would say probably the same exact thing. I was happy to see the offensive line move people. I was happy to see Williams get a lot of carries and get some really, really good runs. Henderson taking that one to the house was amazing, and having Wilson come back was amazing to see. It was great to see him do what he does. I'm kind of like Davis. The defense, yeah, there's things that other than the first drive and then the fumble, I know Davis said we would touch on later. I would just say the one knock on that was the defensive line pressure. We didn't get really any pressure. We didn't have a sack. And then the one pressure we did have, we didn't take the opportunity to get the sack. So I'm very, very pleased and surprised because I thought it would be a very close game. I did not expect CJ to throw over 300 yards. So that was very awesome to see. So I would say probably about the same as Davis on that one. And it's good to have you back, Davis, too.
Thanks, buddy. Hey, what about you, Chad? Where are you at on this one?
Well, I got to be honest, man. I kind of side with you guys here. I hate to agree. You know, I hate agreeing with you guys. Like, it burns me up to agree with you. But I have to agree with you, man. It was a great game. I saw a lot of positive things, both offensively and offensively. I'm going to be negative Nancy when we talk about defense, probably. But I did like some things. I really don't have anything to complain about, man. I thought CJ had a great day. The receivers had a great day. Great days. Running game, I like the fact that we finally mixed it up a little bit. Mayan Williams got some carries. I enjoyed that. That's what should be happening, and I'm glad to see that. But the one knock that I got, and it's not really on the way we played the game, it's just kind of the management. I said this to you guys during our group text during the game, is that just, man, I feel like we need to get some of these other quarterbacks in there at the end of these games just to get a little bit of experience. And I'm not talking about an entire quarter. I'm talking about bring them in for a couple of series, Let him run this offense. Because I keep thinking to myself, man, CJ Stroud is amazing. He's killing it. Like everybody said, he's leading the Heisman campaign at this point, according to ESPN. But, man, if he goes down, we are screwed. That's all I can think about. Nobody really has much experience behind him. I just feel like, man, in these games where we know we've won, where we score, like we said, whatever it was, 8 out of 8 times, in the first times we get the ball, man, throw the backup in, dude. Give him a couple series. Let's get him some game time situation. That's really only my one complaint about it.
Well, while I do agree that, we do need to get some more experience and a little bit more depth at the quarterback position, you have to understand, even though we did have a sizable lead, it still kind of had a tiny bit of feeling in the back of your head that, hey, if we don't keep scoring, we're showing that we're not really able to keep them off the scoreboard as well in this game with how it was panning out. And even if you put someone in, I mean, are we really going to trust them to run that full offense in regard to, all the passing and everything? Or is it going to be more of, running the ball? So I get what you're saying, but
you have to, because you're going to have to trust them if CJ goes down, aren't you?
True, but if he wasn't down at that point, and the most important thing is that game, I mean,
I'm saying, do you want your quarterback looking like a deer in the headlights when he comes in for the first time, or like Kenny Guyton? They got a little bit of work at the end of every, you know what I mean? He got work here and there. So when he came in, it really wasn't like a giant shell shock. That's all I'm really trying to say. Like, and I get it, dude. Yeah,
no,
you're right.
I'm on the same page with you. I get it. It just didn't really feel like I had a feeling in the way the whole game is going that CJ was going to play start to finish, unless the defense really kept him to like 13, 14 points. At that point, I did not see another quarterback coming in. It's not that I didn't think they were capable of doing it, but it just didn't have that vibe. Like, go ahead and throw all the backups in.
What do you think?
When we were texting, like, because I know I was joking and trying to be funny, but I really thought it was for style points. Like, I really thought of you for a second, Chad, when I texted that, but I didn't, when we were texting, I really thought it would be style points, take advantage of stomping on somebody's throat, kind of putting it on them and putting it on them. But I'm like you in a sense of getting other guys opportunities to see the field. But you may disagree with me on this one. I thought it would have been more of the offensive line and the second group of receivers, because we've talked about that during the middle of the season when they've played like Rutgers or Akron and stuff like that. Why is it that the other young group of receivers aren't getting in? Because like I said, like last week, Nebraska, Wilson's out, and then Fleming gets his first opportunity, which, is great and everything. But I that's the way I look at it. In other position groups, is I just wondered why they didn't get an opportunity to play, to get some experience. Because, what if Wilson gets another concussion, or what if Olave, God forbid, gets hurt or something like that? That's kind of where I felt. But I was kind of like you. I didn't know why they didn't come out and throw the ball a couple times with the young guys like Kyle and Quinn. But I thought it was more for style points. That was my first thought when we were texting. So
and you could be right. Like, in the back of my mind, it's just that I guess, like, now that we're here, I guess I'm skittish from last season. You know what I mean? Like, anything can happen, man. Can somebody go out on COVID protocol? Yes, it's still happening. Now, we've been lucky so far, knock on wood. Okay, but I'm saying it could happen. It could happen to a key player. And like you said, could happen to Olave or Njigba or somebody like that, or Travion Henderson. And I just think about that stuff, especially at this time of the year. And I just thought to myself during the Purdue game, this might be the most sizable lead we're going to have in the games we have left. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe we'll come out and blow everybody out. I don't know that. All I'm saying is that, like, I saw that opportunity and I thought, man, this might be the biggest lead we have in the games we have left of the season. So, like, let's put some work in. Like you said, let's get some receivers in. Let's get the second team in. Let's get Kyle McCord or whoever the heck you want to put on the field after that in there and get a couple reps, man. That's all I was really saying.
Yeah, I get it. So because of the game yesterday, we are now back in first place in regards to points per game and yards per game, and continue to look like, they even said that if there's going to be one team that could really put up a threat against Georgia, it's Ohio State. And I fully believe that, because I think we have the best offense in the country. I think we have the best capability for firing on all cylinders to be able to exploit the defense that Georgia has. And if you think about it, the one thing that Georgia does really well is that they're able to get pressure to the quarterback and get a lot of sacks. Well, what's the strength of Ohio State's team? It's pass blocking, correct? I think that could almost kind of 50-50 itself out. And then once you can kind of have a little bit more room in the pocket, you can expose that Georgia defense. I mean, Tennessee early on exposed it until they kind of went to crap. But, the whole point I'm making is I think this is what this team is capable of, regardless of the defense that we play. It's just whether or not we can game plan for it or not. Because, Purdue is not a bad defense. I think they're in the top 25 defensively in the country. So they're not a bad defense. I wouldn't say they're an elite defense, obviously, but definitely a defense where they have, a first round draft pick prospect on the defensive end, and they have several other athletes on the field that have had a lot of interceptions, tackles for losses. You've seen what they did to Iowa. You've seen what they did to Michigan State. So I don't think this was just, a crazy aberration like this, this happened, like lightning in a bottle thing. This is what we're capable of doing. The red zone looked a lot better this time around. The running game got going. And that was the two keys, if you remember, that we talked about last episode that needed to get fixed. And we fixed them with flying colors. And what we have, we had our best productive offensive output since the Tulsa game.
Okay, well, that brings a good segue here. I want to ask Chaz this because I think it's going to be part of what he's going to say anyway. I'll ask Chaz this, then Davis answer afterwards. Is the team that we saw Saturday night versus Purdue the real Ohio State team? Because I think we can all agree, okay, it's been, no matter where your opinion lies and how we've played week to week, it has been somewhat of a roller coaster. We've gone through some growing pains. We've had some ups and downs. And I feel like it all came to fruition on Saturday night. But do you believe that that's the real Ohio State team?
Like, I want to say, like, before I go on, that performance on offense is what I think we all were waiting for after the Oregon game. Like, can we all agree on that? Like, to me,
yeah,
on the offensive side of the ball, that was the most complete offense I think I've seen all year. That was, like I said, it shocked the hell out of me. I was not expecting that at all. I thought we'd start slow. It's honestly great to see him, and what a way to, like, when to start it, like right now before these next two games. Like that was great. So on the offensive side of the ball, to answer your question, yes, what they did Saturday, that right there is a playoff or a national title team offense. There ain't no doubt about it.
But do you think, before you answer, Davis, Chaz, do you think that that's sustainable? Do you think that's something that we continue to do week in and week out for the rest of the season, or was this just a good week?
And I would say, yeah, because of their confidence. Like, when you go back and watch that, like, everybody was getting into it, like everybody. Like, and then not even that, just the mistakes on offense. They played clean too. They were focused. Everybody had confidence on that side of the ball. I think they can sustain it. If that right there, like after the game, if Ryan, Day took the offense and said, "Hey, look, this is what you can do." Yes, I think they are very, very capable of doing it. Like, there should be no reason why now. Like, you've already done it, so just keep doing it.
Davis?
Now, I agree for the most part. Do I think we can sustain 620 yards of offense and almost 60 points a game? No. I think that was also partly because we had some key turnovers. We had short field to work with early on in the game. Definitely took the advantage of some big plays that may not be there against some tougher teams. But do I still think that we are a 500-plus yard, 42-plus point team against anyone? Yes. I think for the most part, that's going to be good enough. Now, again, on the other side of the ball, which I know we'll talk about here in a little bit, we're going to have to maintain that level, in my opinion, against these better teams, because that's going to be, a little bit of our Achilles heel. Because when you said, is this more of a true representation of our team? I think it's almost like exactly what our team is. I think the offense is unstoppable if we're not shooting ourselves in the foot. I think the defense is decent. I think they can make plays when they need to, but I also think they're going to give up a bunch of yards, and they can definitely get exposed in the passing game. I think our run defense has improved a lot. We're not getting run on hardly at all anymore. And I think that's good news for the matchup next week against Michigan State, that, I'm feeling a lot more confidence in the run defense than I am the pass defense. So I would agree that I think this is more realistically what we should expect going forward. And the motivation's going to be there. I can understand the Nebraska game. There's a little bit of a lull there. The Purdue game was almost kind of, it was the best thing that happened to us was Purdue beating Michigan State. because it helped to get them ranked, put them on the map, and really help us kind of take them serious. But I mean, game day is going to be there next week, so they're not going to need any more motivation for that. And then obviously going on the road to Michigan, there's build up frustration not getting to play them last year. The motivation's there. So I think if they continue to stay focused in practice and stay healthy, most importantly, I think this is definitely what we should expect to see for the next few weeks.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of agree, but I'm going to take it just a hair deeper. Like, to me, it all lies with the offensive line's performance. And by saying that, what I'm saying is that I feel like when we establish the run, like we talked about before in keys to the game, when we established the run, like we had 263 yards rushing on Saturday night, we're unstoppable.
Well, yeah, it was 8.5 yards per rush too. I mean, that's a stupid number.
Yeah,
that's really good.
My point is, and you know what, Stroud was lights out, right? He had five TDs, no interceptions, 361 yards. But my point is, he threw it 38 times, where in other games we've had to throw it over 50 times when we can't establish a run. So my point is, I think everything really comes back to that offensively. So to me, it's all about the offensive line, man, and how they play going forward. Do I think it's sustainable? I do. I think as long as they do their job and do what they're supposed to do, then I think that this is sustainable. If they play like crap and get dominated by a D-line, I don't think it is. That's kind of where I lie.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, this game literally set up for all the success that we had talked about. Like, what do we need to see out of this team to be able to get the results? And I said it had to be at least 200 yards of rushing. They had 260. It had to be pretty balanced. I mean, 360 passing yards to 260 rushing. I'd say that's pretty balanced. And I think it still looks like we're more of a pass first team, but knowing that running is there. See, not once in the game did I think CJ should have kept the ball and ran, or did I think that there should have been a design run for, like, when we have a running game going, I can now see where there's not really that much need for him to run. I understand that's still possibly going to be an issue going forward, especially on short distance, third and fourth down, goal line, stuff like that. But as long as we can get the running game going, we don't have to stress about things like that. But I think this is the perfect makeup for what we really need to be producing over the next several weeks.
Well, let's switch gears real quick. We've stayed on one side of the ball here, so let's go Chaz and then Davis on this one. Chaz, tell me and give me a grade, A through F. How do you grade out this defense Saturday night?
I would have gave it just a solid C. Because like I said, I thought we could have got pressure with just 4. I really did. And I mean, like I said, there was just one play where we had an opportunity to sack him and we missed him. Other than, like I said, the first drive and then the fumble recovery, I didn't think we played very well on the back end of the defense. I mean, I knew that, we all knew that they were going to throw the ball. I mean, everybody who watches Buckeye football and Purdue knew that they were going to throw the ball, but I was just kind of disappointed that we didn't get any pressure other than just the one time and then the one turnover. I don't know. I just felt like we had too many opportunities to get off the field. We couldn't get off the field. And there was a couple misassignments on coverage. The first touchdown, Hickman didn't go, he didn't go across to cover. I don't know. I would just gave it a C, dude. I don't know. I just wasn't very happy with it. I just expected a little bit more. And missed tackles, too. There was a lot of missed tackles, too, Saturday.
Davis?
I'm closer to a C+, maybe borderlining a B-. See, listen, I don't think people realize, but Purdue's passing offense ranks 7th in the country. And we're 6th in the country in passing offense. So this is by far the best passing offense that we've seen all year and that we will see all year. Okay. It was apparent that the game plan was to not take a lot of shots downfield. It was to pick apart the zone. It was to just try to keep getting first downs. That's why we were blowing them out in score, but they actually had more first downs than we did for the better part of that game. I think that gets overlooked. And I mean, they had really good wide receivers. David Bell, arguably maybe one of the better wide receivers in the Big Ten. Even though we kept him in check for the most part, and he didn't score a touchdown, he still got over 100 yards because the other quarterback, what's his name? Can't think off the top of my head.
Aiden O'Connell.
So Purdue's quarterback, Aiden McDonald. I mean, threw it 52 times.
Aiden McDonald. Jesus Christ, dude! This ain't a commercial for a fast food restaurant. It's Aiden O'Connell, asshole.
So So Purdue's quarterback Aiden O'Connell, threw 52 times for like almost 400 yards. So when you're throwing it that often and you keep dinking and dunking underneath and picking apart, the zone, like being the top 10 passing team in the country, they're going to get their yards. So I think it was not only the best passing offense that we faced. I think it might be the best one we'll face all year. And that's why we still gave up 4 touchdowns and almost 400 yards. So that was always going to be a tough matchup. I don't care. The only way that I guess you could have gone about that differently is to play more man. But who are we really trusting in man at that point? Maybe Denzel Burke, and that's it. Maybe Cam Brown, but definitely not Seven Banks. Seven Banks looks weak. He kind of reminds me of, oh gosh, what's his name from last year?
Sean Wade.
Yeah, thank you. Sean Wade from last year. Like he's not aggressive. He gets pushed around. Sure, it could have been a push off, but man, be tough. I don't know. I think the scheme and everything is one of the reasons why we didn't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Because honestly, tell me, how many times in that game did you see us bring a blitz? Like maybe not at all, maybe once. I mean, we're constantly only bringing 3 or 4. I understand it wasn't good that we're only getting 3 or 4, but Purdue has a really good offensive line, a good passing blocking, just like Ohio State does. So because we weren't able to get home, they could pick the zone apart, and that's kind of what happened. So that's why I'm, not as critical on them, because that was going to be a tough matchup to begin with. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with probably a C+ on that.
Okay, I'm gonna go with a solid C, because C stands for average, and that's exactly what I think this defense is. I guess it's an improvement from what I thought they were going to be going forward. So I don't want people to take that as a bag. I'm not saying like, oh, they suck. I'm giving them an average thing. They've made improvements quite a bit, and there has been some standout, athletes, with Denzel Burke and Ronnie Hickman and Steel Chambers, dude. Jesus, he's turned into a player. But I'm saying this much: I feel like when I look at this team, like it makes me feel like we're Oklahoma. Like it makes me feel like that, like a Big 12 team. Like if we get a passing quarterback that comes out here, you know what I mean? They're going to get their yardage. They're going to get their scores. Now, can we score more than them? Probably. But I feel like people are going to get their stuff. I mean, to be honest, dude, Purdue hasn't thrown that much on anybody except Michigan State, other than us. And think about all the people they played this year. We are the second amount of most yards that they've thrown on for anybody. So, like, I keep that into account, and I get that was the game plan. I get it. That was the game plan. But I'm just saying, man, when I look at it, first of all, when you got Bryson Shaw on the field, Jesus Christ, man, anything could happen. That kid is a turd. But anyway, I'm just saying. But I'm just saying, I think we're playing a zone, and I think that they're still getting used to playing that. Like, I feel like the assignments are not always where they should be. I feel like there's slightly some confusion. That's why I give it a C. It was a solid effort. I think they're getting better every week. There is some standout people on this defense that are going to be stars, but I just think going forward, like we're going to have to lean on this offense if we want to win football games in late November and in January.
And I agree. And if you think that the games that we've really struggled, it's because we've scored, under 35 points. I think that's kind of going to be the makeup for our success, is that the defense, they just need to try to do as best they can, be opportunistic, get a few turnovers, which we've done this year. I mean, we have a really good turnover margin. I think we're like +9 on the turnover margin. But it definitely seems like, we're not going to be producing a lot of 3 and outs. It's also going to potentially hurt us on field position at times. If they were driving, but we do get stops, but they're at least getting a couple first downs and pinning us, deep inside our own side of the field. But that definitely seems like, the defense is going to be, it's almost predictable. The defense is probably going to give up about 400 yards of offense and anywhere between 20, 25 points on average would be my guess. So I think as long as the offense can keep firing and scoring at least 40 points a game or more, I mean, I think our defense can keep all these other teams under 40.
Well, let me ask you, when you guys look at this team, do you agree with what I said in that it's kind of Big 12-esque?
I'm only going to agree partially just because of the statistics that we're seeing. I don't think that's I don't think it's the players. I think we're still young. I think we still have a lot of moving pieces in there, especially changing. I mean, it's almost unprecedented to make a change like that in the middle of a season. And we are seeing improvement, but that's just because people are getting more comfortable. I don't think it's Big 12 and the fact that, that's complacency, that's okay, that, hey, let's just get out there and try to score 50. The goal is to try to get better on defense and to try to get back to what we would expect the Big Ten and Ohio State defense to be. So I disagree there, but statistically right now, I mean, it's kind of creeping up to a little bit of what the old Oklahoma used to look like, or the new Oklahoma, or whatever you want to call them.
Chaz, how do you feel about that statement?
I'm kind of like Davis when it comes to the statistics. Yeah, it does kind of look like Oklahoma. But the one thing I would say, Davis, when you say like, yeah, I mean, that will be the best, top rated passing offense that we will see. When you go and think, okay, if we match up against Alabama, like they have obviously deeper guys than Purdue does. And that's what I was saying. I just felt like we've missed our opportunities at Saturday to get after the quarterback. I don't believe that we are a Big 12 team. I don't think we're an Oklahoma team. I still believe that there is some pride on defense when you look at it, because like I said, at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, it looked like we were just, yes, Oklahoma, like we did not want to play defense. But it's just tough for me, man. Like I said, because defense is a thing for me. Like I'm the old school kind of guy. I still believe that we should pride ourselves on defense, and I do believe when you look at this team from the end of last year in the two games of the season, like we have improved. But I just felt like Saturday we missed our opportunities to get off the field, get some pressure. But when we were talking about other teams and matchups, like Purdue, yes, is going to be the best passing team that we've seen all year. But I look at it when we match up against Alabama. They have better guys than Purdue. So I just look at like that matchup as, okay, we have got to improve on that side of the ball. And I understand that we are still young and we did change our scheme or our head guy on defense, but I still think that we can become the defense that we've always had at Ohio State.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not okay with the defense this year, but I've settled into acceptance of what we're really going to be capable of doing. And we're never going to be that team that is going to be keeping teams under 20 points that are good teams and dominating a game on defense and doing things like that. I think that we've seen enough good things with the amount of sacks that we have gotten in most games, the ability to turn the ball over to score defensively. But it's like, I think the norm and what's to be expected, especially with the level of competition that we're getting ready to go through, I've just accepted the fact that, hey, we just need to be opportunistic at this point, to try to keep the ball in front of us, not give up the big play. They may march the field on us, but that gives them a lot more opportunities to turn the ball over, have penalties, do something stupid, and be opportunistic in those means. That's kind of where I'm at with the defense. I'm not okay with it, but that kind of seems like that's what we're going to have to roll with this year. And it's going to put a lot more pressure on the offense to have to produce like they have or like they did against Purdue. But, I think the offense is up for the challenge. We definitely can't afford any more of those Nebraska games. So moving forward, I don't know where we go from here in regards to expecting anything more from the defense other than probably what we've seen. So, I mean, it's just going to be timely plays, really, to be honest with you. It's just going to have to be making timely plays and finding some way to get a better percentage of not giving up touchdowns in the red zone. Because I feel like every time a team gets in the red zone, we're constantly giving up a touchdown.
See, and that's kind of like where I was when I said Big 12-esque. That's why I said it like that. I said esque, okay, which means ish.
Right. I mean, it's not like we're going back and forth and just, shooting out 50 to 50. Like, that's not going to happen.
No,
but
what I'm saying is that, like, I'm sure that Oklahoma, as much as they suck on defense and have for many, many, many years, I'm just saying, like, I'm sure that they have some pride in trying to be a defensive football team in some way. They don't want to just come out and lay down. I can't hardly believe that. But I will say At this point, we have a young defense. We've changed schemes. We know what it's going to be. Okay, we have a good idea of what it's going to be. And like Davis said, I've come to acceptance. And that's kind of why I said Big 12-esque, in that, I'm sure that Oklahoma doesn't want to come out and get scored on 35 points a game, but they do. And they've, and I think we've kind of come to realize that that's the kind of team we are this year. Like we are that team. And I'm not saying we're going to get 35 points to everybody. I'm just saying we're a team that's going to lean on our offense and hope that our defense can get enough stops, get enough pressure, make enough plays to keep us in these games. You know what I mean? And I think that's truly the essence of this team this year.
And I know it looks bad, but we're only giving up an average of 20.2 points a game. And I know that could be a little bit skewed because of some of the easier competition we played in the middle of the season, but
exactly.
But we're still, there's other teams that have done the same thing that have
but
not. They played
how many points
too.
have we given? How many points have we given up to teams that are good?
Well, I mean, that's just relatively speaking. Like, how many teams are other teams playing that are good?
Well, not really, dude. If you play 4 games a year, 3 of them are for little league high school teams, and the other one's the Yankees. Those stats are going to be slightly skewed when you average them out.
Well, then I'd venture this too. I mean, Georgia's given up 7.6 points per game, but tell me one team they've played that's ranked.
Clemson.
Arkansas.
All I'm saying though is just, I'm not defending them in the fact that, hey, we're better than we think we are. I'm just saying, if you think relatively, like, we're not giving up extreme numbers like you would see Oklahoma. For example, Oklahoma is giving up, 24.5 points this year. And that 2 extra points per game, equates to, after 10 games, that's 20 extra points over the season. That's an extra 3 scores are given up. So all I'm saying is, Alabama's around 18 points per game. They're not that far off. I just think it's got to be the opportunistic stuff that kind of because teams are going to get their yards against us. We've just got to tighten up the red zone. We've got to keep more off the scoreboard on top of giving up those yards, and just be more opportunistic in turning the ball over.
Chaz, you had something you wanted to say.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I totally understand what you guys are saying, especially from last year, that pass defense, the COVID year. We all can agree it
was garbage last year.
That was terrible. Yeah, it was. Now, it's hard for me just because, like I said, for me because I think defensively. I've always thought like that. Maybe that comes from, my uncle or something. I don't know. But it's hard for me to accept. Now, I'm not saying that we need to be like a Georgia defense. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that we need to go back to early 2000 Buckeye defense, where the defense is winning every game for us. I'm not saying that. I'm kind of like where you are. If the opportunity presents itself on 3rd and 7, we got to get off the field. That's where it's that's what I want to see. And that's what I think why I gave it just a C Saturday, because we all knew they were going to throw the ball on us,
Right.
We could have probably done a prop bet of, hey, are they going to throw the ball over 50 times? I think every single one of us would have been like, yeah, they're going to throw the ball 50 times or more. We knew that game plan. I was just disappointed that we didn't cause an interception. We didn't get a pick. We didn't, come around with a strip set. That's all I was saying, when it came to that opportunity. Because when you throw the ball more, you're likely to get a pick or two. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
Right.
that's the only thing I was trying to say. And now these 2 games coming up, which I know we're not previewing, but we're not going to see that like we saw against Purdue. So I just wish that, I just want them to continue to improve, especially in the zone coverage, because we have got to tighten that up. We truly do. So,
Hey, dude,
Right,
should
yeah.
I get you? I'm going to get you a Bryson Shaw jersey, dude. I'm going to get
thanks,
it.
man. I appreciate that, dude. I really do. Because you know what? Hey, you know what? He was the 2nd leading tackler Saturday. So,
Listen, like we talked about, that was assists. That was not single tackles.
well, Tackle is a tackle, my friend. It does not matter if Davis holds him on for dear life and I just come over and hip check him. Mine still counts too. You know.
All right. Well, let me segue into this real quick because something interesting happened today. In that the new AP poll came out, and obviously we know with everything that happened this weekend. And by the way, I'd like to thank the Fighting Lane Kiffins for giving me another W and also making me right again. Some people lost, namely Oklahoma and stuff like that. And there's been some movement in the AP. And when the AP came out, I looked at it and I went, you know something? Like it's kind of slightly reminiscent of the BCS to me. In that if the BCS was still around, I'm not saying this would be exactly what it is, but it seems more BCS-esque. I hate to use that word twice in a podcast, but esque. So real quick, if you guys don't know, the AP came out today, and it went like this. Number 1, Georgia. Number 2, Alabama. Number 3, Cincinnati. Number 4, Oregon. Number 5, Ohio State. Number 6, Notre Dame. Number 7, Michigan State. Number 8, Michigan. Number 9, Oklahoma State. And number 10, Ole Miss. Okay, so knowing what you guys know about the CFP, what I wanted to ask you both was this, and I don't care who takes it first. Do you feel the AP poll is more correct right now than the CFP?
I'm going to say yes and no. I will say yes in the fact that the AP tends to value the head-to-head better and a lot more consistently. They're still having Michigan State above Michigan. Obviously have Oregon above Ohio State. Have Baylor ahead of OU, even though Baylor has 2 losses and Oklahoma has 1. You know, stuff like that. So I agree in the fact that at least that's more of a consistent representation of what we're seeing. But I still cannot vouch for the fact that Cincinnati is the number 3 team in the country. And me personally, and it's probably partly being a homer as well, but I don't agree with Oregon being ranked above us anymore. Like, I understand the head-to-head, but, you know, I think it's been a lot more clear consistently that we have looked better overall than Oregon has. And Oregon still has a worse loss, if you think about it. I mean, to a Stanford team. Plus, I mean, the computers don't even like Oregon. The computers only give them a 40% chance to even win the Pac-12. And the game this weekend against Utah's favored. You mean to tell me the 4th team in the country against a Utah team that is 24th in the AP poll?
But I can't wait to hear Chaz go on that. But continue on.
But you see what I'm saying, right? Like, I don't understand that. I'm on a personal level, I'm having a problem with Oregon being ahead. You know. But the big thing is, I agree more with the CFP in regards to where Cincinnati is being put. So that's kind of more my take. But I do think it looks a little bit more consistent and probably a little more accurate.
Before you go on, before Chaz gives me his take, because I know that he's getting ready to, do you think Cincinnati, who do you take, Cincinnati or Oregon? Cincinnati wins out, Oregon wins out. Who's the better team? Who do you put in?
Probably Oregon.
Chaz, give me your...
And you would take that... Hold on, I don't mean to change the subject. You take that like if they played right now.
Yeah, I think if they played right now, like on a neutral field, Vegas would definitely favor Oregon, and I think Oregon would probably beat Cincinnati. I think it'd be a close game. I don't think it would be a blowout or anything like that, but I think it would be a touchdown, 10-point game.
You and I would be at the Vegas tables drinking beer and seeing which one of us won money, because I would probably take the latter.
You take Cincinnati over Oregon?
I would.
I would too.
I mean, I just don't see it. And like, I'm having a hard time with Cincinnati. You know, I know they had that good win, but they're just hanging their hat on that Notre Dame win, and that could have been one game, just like Ohio State had that one horrible game against Oregon, right? And couldn't pull it out when we outgained them in yards by over 100 yards and just made mistake after mistake, right? So it's like we're being constantly ridiculed by that game. At the same token, Cincinnati is constantly being praised because of that one game, but they're overlooking the issues with Tulsa or with Tulane and Tulsa and Navy. Like, those are teams, if you're the top 3 team in the country, you should be blowing those teams out. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but didn't we play Tulsa?
We beat them by more than Cincinnati did, and we played a global game in the process.
Did we blow them out? How do we look in that game?
I know that Travion Henderson set the freshman running record.
I'm just saying that we did not look good in that game, and you know it.
No, I agree. I think we definitely underachieved in that game, but we have better wins, in my opinion. Like if you're doing eye test, because that's where I'm kind of mixing it. So now we're talking about on a personal level. Am I more of an eye test person, or am I more of a record?
Well, hold on. Before we get in this, because I see where we're going, let me get Chaz's opinion on the AP versus CFP. Then we'll come back to this conversation because I want to have.
Well, I can make it real quick, and then if it's okay with you, can I ask Davis a question after I get?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
is that okay?
No,
okay.
You may not.
Why? Because I'm an asshole. Anyways,
that's true.
Yeah.
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
That's it. Richard McRichardson.
Yeah, nobody makes me believe my own blood. I would say the way the AP has it is the way I would do it, because I do value head to head. I do. That's just how I am, because I don't care if your team lost to a 1-9 team, but your team beat me. Like, your team obviously was better, is better if you beat me head to head. I value head to head. So to me, especially the top 5, yeah, I would say is right. That's just my opinion. That's how I've always felt about that. But I wanted to ask you, Dave, because you did miss a really good CFP talk. If you were on the committee and you had to pick one, which one matters to you? Beating the team where they're ranked at now, or where they're at the end of the year?
That's a good question.
You were voting.
No, that's a good question. Me personally, I think it's more important the ranking that you play them, because as soon as you beat that team, they're automatically going to drop in ranking. And then they're like, okay, so if you beat the number 20 team and then the next week they're not ranked, well, that's not your. Then all of a sudden you're getting credited for a non-ranked win immediately a couple days after when they drop them in ranking. But when you played them, they were ranked 20th. So how is that fair automatically that you play a team that's ranked and then the next week they're not because you beat them? You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I don't like the fact that, okay, you beat a team that's unranked, but all of a sudden they go on a tear after that and they're end up being ranked. I mean, I can see that. I understand both of them are important, because down the road, hey, I beat this team, and at the end of the season they end up being ranked 8th. Okay, so that looks like a quality win. But I think it's more important that you should credit your ranked wins as when you played them. And then that should be like a secondary ranking score, so to speak, of after the fact ranking.
Because that's how I feel when it comes to, especially like when me and Chad were talking. To me, that means a lot. Like, it's not my fault that you put a team at 20 or whatever and I beat them. You know what I mean? That's where you put them. But I kind of want to ask, because I just want to get your feel. Does head to head matter to you? And I'm not really, you could take it as like the Buckeye one as a head to head, or even Michigan State, or, anybody else in the top 25. I guess I'm trying to get your feeling, because we didn't really, all three of us didn't get to talk about it at the same time. I guess I'm trying to get where you feel on your criterias are. Does head to head matter to you too? You know what I'm saying? Like,
it does, but it's not high up on the list. And here's why. Because the rankings, and I know they come out each week, but the rankings are supposed to be a culmination of your overall resume, your overall record. Okay? It's not supposed to focus on one part of your season, and that's it. So if you say head-to-head's the most important thing, then you're focusing on that one game and ignoring all the other ones. As long as they win, doesn't matter. It's the head-to-head. You see what I'm saying? So how is that a true test of how good a team really is and whether they should be ranked if you just keep focusing on one game for the entire season?
Okay,
same thing.
Do you agree that Michigan State should be in front of Michigan? Or not?
Absolutely, in a heartbeat. Now, but that one is because of what I saw, and I watched that game. What I saw was Michigan looked really good early on, but Michigan State came all the way back and ended up winning that game. And it looked fairly evenly matched. And from that point on, the other loss that Michigan had was against a Purdue team that ended up being ranked. Now, of course, wasn't ranked at the time, so it doesn't look like, that they lost to an unranked team. It is what it is. But it still close enough that if you watch what they've been putting on paper, both teams, because Michigan hasn't looked good. I mean, Michigan struggled against Nebraska. They struggled against Rutgers. They struggled against, they didn't really put Indiana away like we did. I mean, Michigan has not given you any jaw-dropping moments at all this season. But Michigan State has felt a little bit more jaw-dropping, especially with, their running back Walker. So I think there's a lot more things that you could say that, if you put them matched up together, if they had the same identical records, let's say they're both unbeaten, I would still probably favor Michigan State.
So let me ask you this then real quick. Because I think I've got what you're saying where you lie. Okay, because I think Chaz is what is asking is, he said what he values and what he looks at slightly. So to me, what you're saying is that you value the eye test, you value head-to-head to a degree in certain situations.
Right.
But overall, your end-all be-all is the eye test.
A head-to-head's like a tiebreaker if I can't decide one way or the other. But I am more eye test, but it's got to be an unbiased eye test. And I think that's the problem where we lie, especially with people on the CFP committee, is that it definitely looks like they favor the SEC because they're almost built into their heads or told that, hey, this is the dominant conference, whether it's a win or a loss, it's a quality win or a quality loss. And therefore, they get the benefit of the doubt on the eye test simply because there's an automatic bias there. If you can try to put the bias out as much as possible, and I know it makes it hard because an eye test is subjective, right? So if you can find a way to put, that stuff aside, that's where I'm more on the eye test. I mean, just like all of us would sit here and agree, if we had that rematch against Oregon, we all feel like we would beat them by 2 scores. And I'd say almost anyone else, like you could ask Oregon fans right now and give them truth serum and say, hey, if we played Ohio State, do you feel confident you win that game? They'd probably say no. And they probably felt like they even snuck away with the one they got against us in Columbus. So I still don't understand how the majority of people can still look and think that Oregon's a better team than Ohio State. Because at this point, they have identical records. I know they have the head-to-head, but the head-to-head obviously doesn't matter to them with Michigan State and Michigan.
Chaz, what's your take?
I don't get it.
I mean, I get where you are coming from, Davis. I truly, truly do. But let me ask you, what if the roles were reversed? What if we beat, Oregon, okay, and they ran the table ever since, and say we turn around and lose to, I mean, who would be a similar team to us?
That'd be Indiana.
Okay, we lose to Indiana. Would you still feel the same way?
No, because Ohio State has been penalized for those kinds of losses. We got penalized against Iowa. We got penalized against Purdue. All those kept us out of CFP because of that loss. We got penalized for losing to Michigan State at home by 3 in 2015. Ohio State gets penalized for losing more than any other team, I feel like, ever since the CFP ranking has happened. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong that Ohio State has not been penalized for losses.
No, I agree with you on that. I agree. I'm just asking you as a football fan, not a Buckeye fan, just a football fan. That's all.
As a football fan, I obviously want the best 4 teams in, and I understand it's an imperfect system. My way of doing it would be that winning does have to matter, obviously, because then why keep score? But the way you win, the way you look, the way that you're producing on the field has to matter too. I know we've had hiccups, and I know the defense is probably one of the big reasons why we're not able to make that jump over these other teams yet. But the offense is almost historically good, like LSU a couple years ago good. And that's hard to ignore. And people are seeing this on the field most of the season. And even with our bad games, we're still top in the country in all of these statistics. So that's eye test stuff right there. How is that not passing an eye test?
I got to chime in here.
No.
To me, I'll let you respond afterwards, Chaz. The eye test should be the tiebreaker. The resume and everything else should be the initial. Who you've beat and your resume should be the number one deciding factor. And if it's too close, it should say who looks like the better team at the end. Because otherwise, what the hell are we doing here?
Well, so that's honestly more where I'm at. I know it sounds like I'm saying it in reverse, but at the end of the day, yeah, that's kind of more where I'm saying Ohio State should be above Oregon because the resumes are similar, are they not? So does that mean that just simply because Oregon beat us and we have similar resumes, Oregon has to be on top? But then let's go and look at the eye test, and Ohio State looks like the better team, so Ohio State should jump them.
Yeah, but it shouldn't get to the eye test with Oregon. That's my point. It shouldn't get to the eye test because they beat us head to head. That's part of the resume.
But they also have a worse loss.
Loss shouldn't be. That's what I'm saying, dude. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I guess that's where I was about to. I don't mean to cut right.
Go ahead,
but
dude.
I think
Jump in, man.
I was about to say, like, I think that's where in my mindset, like, okay, see, when you say that, like I said, I still go back to the old school way. Like, I don't care what your record is. If you beat me, like, football's a one game. Like, it's not basketball. It's not a best of 3. It's not a best of 7. I just feel like if you beat me, I have to give you the nod. But then again, that's just like, maybe that's just me speaking as if I had a football team or my football team. But I guess I kind of ask you that because it's like, I know we're talking about CFP, but I always go back to the conference. Like, if Indiana beats us, or I'm sorry, like if I didn't mean to say Indiana, but if Michigan State beats us, we're not going to make it to the Big Ten title because they got the head-to-head. Like, we need them to lose again. You see what I'm saying? That's where I've always been. Like, I believe that the head-to-head matters, and I guess that's why I ask you if it was Georgia, Alabama, and let's say Cincinnati at 3. Say the CFP some week, I don't know when, but let's say the second to last or almost the dead last week. Say, hey, they're in no matter what, and then it comes down to the 4th spot. We're in the Big Ten, and then the Pac-12 they're in their championship, and we both win no matter what the score is. Can you honestly say, hey, we should be 4? Over Oregon when they beat us, so they deserve to be in? Because how can you put in a team
there's
that
the key
just
question.
lost to that?
There's the key question. The question that we've really been trying to get at this entire thing is deserving or who should really be there. That's the question. So deserving,
That's
deserving.
Eye test versus resume. Like,
no, there's different ways to go about deserving.
No, deserving is your resume. Eye test is what you're talking about. Deserving is your resume.
Yeah, it's not as black and white, but yeah, for the most part, yeah. So at this point, it's deserving or not. Because I'll be honest, deserving, let me say this right. In past years with Ohio State, all right, so if you think in past years, Ohio State got in the CFP without winning the Big Ten title, right? So we got in on eye test, right?
Yep.
And think of the year in 2015, okay? We didn't get in, and our only loss was to Michigan State, who ended up winning the Big Ten championship and got in. And we lost by 3 points and arguably had a top 4 team that year. We really did. We just could never get all the cylinders clicking at the same time. But our roster and with everyone we had coming back in with our potential, but we definitely didn't deserve it that year and didn't get in. So I think they always go by Ohio State more on deserving than they go by us on eye test. And I feel like this is a circumstance in a year where I really feel like the eye test is more of a true test of what we are compared to deserving. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but are you saying that as an Ohio State fan, or are you just saying that as a football fan? Because you can't decide that one year the resume matters and the next year it's the eye test.
Well, it's hard to be a football fan without being an Ohio State fan. It's really hard for me to try to take my fandom for Ohio State out of that context, because then if I don't have a general interest in a specific team, if I'm just someone on the sidelines, I just want to see the best 4 teams in there. If someone deserves it and snakes by all these games and then gets into the CFP and is a 15, 18-point underdog and gets blown out, that's no fun to watch. And do I think that's possibly what could happen if Oregon gets into the CFP at number 4 and has to play Georgia? Yeah, I think it's going to be a blowout. It's the same reason with Oklahoma. Why Oklahoma was 9-0 and they were ranked 8th. They were deserving, weren't they? But they were going a lot off the eye test there, so they valued eye test when they looked at Oklahoma, but they're not valuing eye test with Ohio State.
Well, let me ask Chaz, because Chaz and I agreed on one thing, and that was that we thought Cincinnati could beat Oregon today. Okay, so Chaz,
I think they could. I don't think they will.
So using that analogy, though, okay, and the fact that Cincinnati has a top 10 win, a current top 10 win, okay, Chaz, tell me right now, why is Cincinnati not in the top 4?
I think it's because of, like, money, dude. I mean, who honestly, if you had to pick the matchup, would you rather see Alabama play Cincinnati or Alabama play Ohio State?
Now, see, I'm going to answer that differently because I'm me, but I understand what you're getting at. So yes, the rest of the nation wants to see the latter. Yeah, I understand.
My point is like to that question, yes. But I'm not here to talk about like the money thing. I'm not here to talk about like which is going to revenue more money because let's be honest, Ohio State revenues, or brings ratings up. And that's just facts. That's not being arrogant to anybody or any other team. It's true. We travel well and we always make ratings. So, I'm not talking about that side of football. I'm just talking as like actual just two teams on the field. I'm trying to keep all the business stuff out of it. All that crap. I was just asking Davis because, like I said, how would you like? Because we're on the end where a team beat us, but how would you feel if it was reversed? Say we beat Oregon. Can you honestly say, yeah, we deserve to be there? Or you see what I'm saying? That's why I'm asking, because I just want to get your feel on because it's going to happen when it gets to the end. Because my biggest fear is, I know I haven't got to say this on here yet, but my biggest fear is that Oregon's going to win this Saturday. And I don't think they will. I don't. And I know when Chad was saying about how I feel about Oregon in this week, I've called this ever since they put the schedule out. I think Utah's going to beat them at Utah. And then I don't think we're going to have to worry about it. But I was just worried if it happens. Can you honestly say, and like if you were voting, could you vote Ohio State over Oregon, even though Oregon's got the head-to-head?
Here's where I'm at too. Okay, so I'll even give you the benefit of the doubt and saying, okay, Oregon deserves to be above Ohio State. And especially at this point now, if you want to look at resumes. But if you look at this past rank win we just had, this top 10 matchup we're getting ready to have, and then another potential almost top 5 ranking that we're getting ready to have, and then another potential top 20 ranking in the Big Ten championship game. Going through that gauntlet unbeaten, even if Oregon does, at what point there are we teetering on the more deserving? At that point, is it still that close that the tiebreakers, the head-to-head?
Yeah, see, I don't know. That's why I was just asking you. I don't know. But I
know
my
answer is no.
I think it's
my answer is obviously no.
Well, obviously I'm just saying, if I'm sitting in a room, and both teams are, which would be what, 11 or 12 and 1. So 12 and 1, 12 and 1. They're both champs, and then there is that deciding factor of head to head. I'm sorry, I've always been the type of guy. Well, you beat them, so you deserve you go ahead. It's not
put it like
you
this.
beat them, sorry.
I can.
Well, they've said
really
really early in the CFP, when this first even was inducted, right? They want the 4 best teams in. Now they've jumbled all this other information in there about how they're going about doing it, about what criteria they're using, which one they're picking and choosing, blah blah blah. They want the 4 best teams in. They've said that. Now, obviously, you could have a really good team that you think probably is one of the best 4 in there that may have 1 or 2 losses and may be out based upon just other records, which again happened in 2015 with Ohio State and 1 loss and didn't get in. But at this point, you've got to have the 4 best teams in if that's honestly why they created this in the first place.
Yeah, but let me ask you a question, dude. The 4 best teams based on what?
Exactly. That's the whole thing. That's where we're at. Because
so, like, are you saying the best 4 teams that you think look the best? Are you saying the best teams that have the best resume? The teams with the best wins? The teams with the worst losses? Like, what are you saying? That's my question, not to you, to the CFP.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And no one has come out with a clear-cut criteria.
Yes.
I think for the CFP, it's money. That's what I think.
It does feel a little political.
Yeah,
it does feel a little political.
Yeah. And I was just, like I said, I don't mean to continue to repeat myself. I just wanted to ask you, because I felt like you really missed, you know what I'm saying? You missed a good CFP.
I'll be honest, man. And I feel the best way I could put it, it's situational from year to year sometimes. Because when you have a lot of teams that are all kind of jumbled around, like this year seems like more of an eye test kind of year. And I think that's a real thing. I mean, look at the Heisman race too. The Heisman race is just up for grabs, but that's the kind of year it is.
But how do you pick?
There's only one team in the country that is probably a verified, guaranteed spot, even if they lose another game, and that's Georgia. Other than that, you can have a legitimate argument on teams 2 through 9 on who could be deserving to get in. So at that point,
can you tell
when you have 3 spots for 8 teams, how do you judge that? Because if everyone wins out from this point on looking forward, I mean, some of them are going to be some like matches and it'll narrow it down, but you're going to have very similar resumes and you're going to have to use that eye test.
I know, but you can't do that. That's my point, dude. So like, how would you
That's
feel
what
if your
they've done
job?
in the past.
I know, but how could you feel if your job came out with different criteria every year?
So how
if
did
they say,
Alabama?
hold
how
on,
did Alabama
listen to me.
title?
Let me say my.
Well, they
let
didn't
me say
even
what I
win
want
the
to
SEC
say.
championship several years
Are
ago.
you gonna let me say what I want to say?
If you say something smart,
I am. If your job calls you into your office this year and says, Davis, you did not get a raise this year because you did not do X, Y, and Z, and you say, you know what? You're right. This year I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And the next year, you not only do you do X, Y, and Z, you do A and B too. Okay. And then they call you and said, sorry, man, this year we're not worried about X, Y, and Z. We're worried about something else. Okay. You're going to be pissed.
Did
and
you
that's
call my boss? How do you know
right?
that? Welcome to the real world.
I'm just saying you can't decide.
You
cannot decide one year that something matters and something and another year, oh, this feels like an eye test year. No horse shit. There should be strict strategic
exactly
guidelines.
what they've done. You can
but
go
you
back
can't-
year
that's what I'm
after
saying.
year
That's
after year,
horse
and you can point out this team got in on eye test. Alabama didn't win the SEC championship. Ohio State did, and Alabama got the nod over Ohio State. It was eye test. More deserving was Ohio State. They won their conference championship. Alabama didn't. Now, Alabama ended up going on and winning the national title that year.
I'm not disagreeing.
That
with
was
you.
a
I'm
year
just
they
saying
went on
it's
eye
horse
test. Deserving. It
There
is.
has to be
so
direct
therein
criteria.
lies where I'm at. My criteria this year, the way it has panned out, feels more like it's more important for the way you're looking. You can look at these resumes because a lot of them are going to be very similar by the end of the year, and it's going to be hard to decipher. So is the most important thing just that head-to-head, or is it how they look? Because let's say Oregon barely squeaks by Utah and then only wins by 7 points or less on all the other matches, and Ohio State blows out Michigan State, Michigan, in the Big Ten championship game. That eye test has got to be important at that point. What do you think happened to Ohio State in the very first year when we won 59-0 against Wisconsin? Who was more deserving? Was it Baylor?
That was the 13th
TCU?
data point. They said that was the 13th data point because they said
13th.
idle. That's what they said. No, I'm repeating. I know that sounds like a smart, but that's what they said.
Well, I know.
Remember?
I'm just saying that in jest, but I'm saying Ohio State got the nod. You know why? Because they got the nod on eye test. They did.
They said 13th data point.
My point is this: do not come out to us. If that's the way that it is, if you're saying, hey, man, every year we're just going to decide who we think the 4 best teams are, we don't give a shit about the criteria. We're just going to come out and say, who are the best 4 teams in the country? Then just say that. Don't put out all this crap about all the stuff about head-to-heads and title, who you won, who you beat. Don't say that then. That's fine. If you don't want to do that and that's the way that is, fine, but just admit it. Come out and say that. I don't want to hear like, oh, this matters this year. But next year, that doesn't matter. Just I know that they beat so-and-so, but we think they're a better football team, so we're putting them in. No, absolutely not, dude. You have to have – it has to be consistent no matter what it is. Even if it's not the way we want it to be, it has to be consistent. Has to be.
It should be. I agree. But see, another reason why I'm arguing so much for this eye test thing is they clearly said the eye test matter between Michigan State and Michigan. That's the whole reason they put Michigan ahead of Michigan State, even though Michigan State won that head-to-head. So
Yeah,
you're
but
going to sit there. Right. So you're going to sit there and tell me then that the committee believes that head-to-head didn't matter, but the head-to-head matters with Oregon because they really believe that Oregon is that closely matched up or looks that much better than Ohio State? Are you kidding?
Like we talked about last week. I mean, yeah, we're talking about Michigan State. We're talking about all that stuff, but let's talk about at the back of the thing, dude, Wisconsin and Purdue. Let's talk about that. Same thing. They honored the head-to-head back there. Wisconsin beat Purdue.
They've honored it in several spots.
They have, but guess what? Purdue beat number 3 Michigan State. They beat Iowa too. And my point is they're behind Wisconsin. So my point is you can't decide. You can't tell me that like, okay, the head-to-head matters when we decide it does, but it doesn't matter in certain situations. No bullshit. It either matters or it don't.
That's what they're doing.
It.
But that's what they're doing.
And I hate it.
And that's why I'm arguing that they've clearly stated that eye test does matter this year because they've proven it and they even said it on television. So my take is, how, if you're actually watching these games, can you honestly believe that Oregon looks like a better team when they have the head-to-head and the exact same record? How can you
Now,
say that?
if you're saying 100% by eye test, if that's the way we're going, then no, you cannot.
Right,
I will
but
agree
that's
with you
what they
on that.
did with Michigan and Michigan State.
But I'm
Clearly,
saying
the top
then
10.
what I'm saying is that then fine. If that's the way it is, fine. Come out and say that. And then Kirk Herbstreit and Desmond and all those guys on the CFP show can stop talking about all the resumes because they're not relevant. They're relevant at that point.
Listen, I'm going to make a hot take right now, and I know people probably won't even hear this before the CFP comes out tomorrow. Or I'm sorry, not tomorrow, but Tuesday. If they had an ounce of gut in them, judging by what they said last week, they will put Ohio State at 3 and Oregon at 4. If they have an ounce of gut in them.
And,
What do you think, Chaz?
And you think just because of what happened Saturday, they should be ahead of them?
I thought it before Saturday. I understand we had a couple bad games, but so did they. But we've overall on the season looked better than they have. Even if you look between the lines, I know they won that game. I know we made mistakes in that game. But we were able to move the ball all around on them. The defense has improved. Everyone has agreed on television and the media that the defense has improved from what we were then. We're not the same team. Oregon has not improved from who they were then. They're the same thing. That's why people believe if you match us back up again, it's an Ohio State win, 9 out of 10.
You know, I may be going off here. Can I ask you this one? Do you think it's the Buckeye in you that wants to play Alabama? Is that why you want to jump?
No, I'm not even looking at. I'm not even looking at.
It's just
a point. I have an issue. I just haven't. No, it has nothing to do with future matchups or anything. To be perfectly honest, this year, I think whoever ends up being in the 4 hole is going to get a tough semifinal matchup, and I think whoever's in the 2 and 3 is going to be a good match. Whoever ends up being there. I think it is important that we avoid Georgia in the semifinal, if at all possible. And I think, you know, the worst thing that could happen is Alabama beats Georgia, because then they're still going to be 1 and 2. And then not one. Yeah, still 1 and 2. They'll put Alabama at 1. They'll probably only drop Georgia to 2 or even 3. But either way, if you're in 2 or 3, you've got to find a way, in my opinion, to avoid that Georgia matchup in the semifinal. Because if you look at the other years, Ohio State has never had that easy Oklahoma or that easy Michigan State or that easy Washington semifinal matchup in the CFP. We've always had a tough semifinal opponent, and that takes a lot out of you, whether you win or lose it, as proven by last year when we got, stomped by Alabama in the national title game, given we were shorthanded. But, it's almost like it's an extra benefit to get that cakewalk game that Alabama seems to get every year, don't they? They get that Oklahoma, that easy win, or against Notre Dame, that easy win, and then they can glide right into the national title game. So standing is important. And if you want to play doomsday scenario, we'll say Alabama does beat Georgia. We'll say Oregon does win out, and Cincinnati does win out, and Notre Dame does win out, because Notre Dame's crept right up behind Ohio State, at least in the AP they have. At that point, doomsday scenario, we need to be starting to creep up these rankings earlier before that last one, to not try to pull off the 2014 and jump someone at the very end.
What do you think, Chad?
Are you saying who's getting in? Is that what you're asking?
I'm saying in doomsday scenario, the reason why I think it's important that we jump Oregon before the end of the year, and it needs to be done based on we think that we're the better team. It's not just based on so this all started because Chaz.
Okay, no, hold on, whoa, real quick before you go there. What you're dealing with, though, when you say eye test and you say all this stuff, is that hypothetical. You're saying hypothetically, we think if we played you again, we could beat you. But it doesn't matter. I already played you and I beat you. In real life, not hypothetically. What you're going off is the hypothetical, where you think that you could beat Oregon at this point, right? We think Ohio State can beat Oregon. Everybody thinks we can. But the point is, dude, we're not getting that opportunity. In reality, they beat us. That's real.
Yeah, I get it. Okay. And maybe it's been harder for me to accept that loss because I know that we're a better team than that. And we definitely did not play a good game. And Oregon played really well. That was Oregon's best game they played all year. And seeing that was our worst game, and it was a 7-point game where we still outgained by over 100 yards of offense. I truly believe we are the better team. And I have to feel like if people are really watching these games throughout the season, they'd have to really see that Ohio State has really grown, and we can see that they struggled in that game. And it's not that Oregon dominated Ohio State. It's not that Oregon was the better team. Oregon came out on top that day. And since that was the similar criteria with the Michigan State matchup and a few other ones they had in the CFP, why are they not doing that for Ohio State over Oregon? And it's important that we establish that earlier on, because that may be important for matchups in the CFP, or even at risk of, in a doomsday scenario, getting left out altogether if all these teams above us keep winning out, and especially the ones behind us.
I agree. I'm just making the devil's advocate argument here.
Yeah.
As if I'm an Oregon fan, like at the end of the day, like you can hypothetically think you beat me on me one, but we beat you. That's it. At the end of the day, we beat you.
Well, listen, they may be possible. You're saying the hypothetical. It may be possible. If Georgia beats Alabama and Oregon and Ohio State win out, there's very likely a chance that Oregon and Ohio State are going to be 2-3, and they're going to play a semifinal game. And I'll be honest, I'm kind of rooting for that to happen.
Oh, I am too. I'm right behind you on that one.
I'm the opposite. You guys want that. You know what I want? I want number 4 because I think Georgia's beatable. I don't think Georgia's all that great. Everybody's talking all this stuff. Oh, Georgia's the greatest team ever. No, they're not. Look at Georgia's history. Look at how many times they've blown it year in, year out. Yeah, they got a good defense. Guess what? Their offense, average.
Yeah, it's just average.
I was about to say, I'm kind of with Davis, like, because I would want Ohio State to have one time to have an easy road. You know, I want to be able to be the favorite by 14 points and then go to the national title. You know, I'm not going to lie about it. I would like to. But the real question is, and I know, like I said, I don't mean to go back, but hypothetically, Georgia wins out, they beat Alabama. Oregon wins out, Ohio State wins out, Cincy wins out. How does the top 4 shape up? Because we didn't get Davis on the last one. And I'd like to hear his on that one.
So you said Georgia wins, Ohio State wins, Oregon wins.
No, he said Alabama beat Georgia, right?
No, Georgia
Alabama
wins.
loses to Georgia.
Yeah, so Georgia obviously won. At that point, Oregon moving up to number 2 if they don't decide to jump them, or it might be irrelevant because it'd be Oregon, Ohio State in the 2 and 3 hole. And then the 4th team, which is really going to be the debate, could still potentially be Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State, if they haven't played Oklahoma yet. So Oklahoma State, if they beat Oklahoma and if they continue with what they're doing, they have the potential to jump Cincinnati. I mean, I know people don't want to hear that, but it's true. But I think it'd be a toss-up probably between Oklahoma State and Cincinnati. I don't see anyone else on that list. You can't put Notre Dame because Cincinnati beat them, and it's not a like record anymore because Cincinnati's unbeaten. If Cincinnati had one loss and beat Notre Dame, then there might be more discussion there.
So you think Alabama jumps or drops below top 5?
At least below top 4. They don't get in with a loss. A 2-loss Alabama team that does not win the SEC is not getting in over an unbeaten Cincinnati or a 1-loss Oklahoma State.
What if the committee says, hey, man, we just feel like Alabama looks like the better team?
Yeah, but at that point, that's almost doing it irresponsibly because then you're completely ignoring record. Like, there's got to be some sort of balance there, which is kind of the point I was trying to make earlier. You know, I'm not saying that, hey, we have 2-3 losses, but we think you're one of the best 4, so we're going to put you in anyways. Like, there still has to be some, you know, consequences for losing multiple games and not winning your conference, okay? There has to be. And you still have to be able to produce in the field, and you may be one of the top 4, but you can't have 2 snoozers like that where you're losing to 2 different teams, regardless of what the talent level you're going against.
I mean, I think it's great that we have 3 different opinions on this as far as like just the angle that everybody's looking at it. Like, and that makes this talk, you know, this makes what's fun about college football, dude, having these talks like this, because everybody's coming from something different. Everybody's brain works a little bit differently, and they have different opinions, which is great. But anyway, speaking of different opinions, we've been on this podcast for like ever. So let's do this, man. Chaz, thanks again for coming on, dude. Like, we always enjoy having you on, dude. It's awesome.
And I always appreciate you guys having me on. Like I said, Davis and Chad, like I always have a lot of fun. So thanks again.
Yeah, no problem. And Davis, it's good to have you back, man. I missed your hairline. It's probably because it's so far away, but I did miss your hairline. So with that being said, dude, take us away.
First of all, you can't have a hairline if you're bald. There's just no hairline. The whole point of it being a hairline is there's got to be hair there in the first place. Yeah,
Well, it's
I
in the
digress.
back. It's an onion. It's in the back, dude. I mean, it's way in the back. It's in the back 40. But it's
No,
back
dude.
there.
I use Bic razor. Nice try. Yeah, it's shiny. It's shiny. Nice try. So moving forward, as always, guys, you can catch us on all major streaming services. We're on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, all that stuff. But definitely give us a listen. We also got a Facebook page. We put a lot of interesting content on there. We do our prop bets. I know we've kind of missed the last few weeks, but we're going to get back to that again for the Michigan State game. So be listening for the next episode on that. And we just really enjoy the support, guys. We recently went over 1,000 downloads on our online stuff. So we know that we're starting to gain in popularity, and we'd love to kind of hear back from you guys to, see maybe some things that you'd like to hear. We just love more interaction. But at the end of the day, we just really love just talking football, talking Ohio State. No matter how heated we get with this, we're super passionate, and we just really enjoy what we do. So we appreciate you guys kind of riding along with us on that. So until next time, guys, as always, go Bucks. OH.